Greed? I don't know how to define greed, but I would, in my own silly, stupid way, I would define greed as unlimited, irrational desire.
No, generally greed is like this. What I want is need, what you want is greed. Generally, that's how it is defined. Greed is a strong word, we don't have to go to this. Why? Greed is a consequence of a certain unfulfilled state. When I say a consequence of a certain unfulfilled state, what is a human being longing for? Every human being. All of you, wherever you are right now, you would like to be little more than what you're right now, isn't it so? Hello? Yes. If that little more happens, what? Little more? If that happens, what? So it looks like in installments you're going towards something. How much more would settle you for good? Let's look at it right now. Why go at it in installments? How much more would settle you? Hello? If I make you the king or queen of this solar system, don't look at me with hope. I am not known to commit such blunders. Even if you become the king or queen of the solar system, you will not be fulfilled, you will look at the stars. Because this is the nature of the human being. There is something within you always longing to expand in a boundless way. Because you have gotten so very identified with your physical form, you're trying to find this boundless way through physical means. When we say physical, let's understand this. Physicality can exist only because of a defined boundary. If there is no boundary, there is no physicality possible. You can say something is physical only if it has a defined boundary, otherwise it cannot be physical. So through something which is physical is the world of boundaries. Through the world of boundaries, you're trying to reach towards boundlessness. This is like you're driving your ambassador car. Unfortunately, I don't see too many on the Calcutta roads anymore. You're driving your ambassador car, but you want to go to the moon. You may go beyond the moon sometimes, if you try hard. But you will not go to the moon because to go to the moon you need a different kind of vehicle altogether. So you're seeking boundlessness unconsciously. So you're trying to go towards boundlessness through physical means. When it finds very basic physical expression, you wanting to be more than yourself, we call this sexuality. All you're trying to do is something that is not you, you're trying to make it a part of yourself for a few moments. If it finds emotional expression, we call this love. Something that is not you, you want to include as a part of yourself. If it finds a mental expression, it gets labeled as greed, ambition, conquest, or simply shopping. If it finds a conscious expression, we call this yoga. Yoga means union. Yoga means you successfully erased the boundaries of your individuality. Because the boundaries of your individual nature are essentially your making. When I say it's essentially your making, right now let us say you're sitting here, unfortunately somebody that you don't like, your enemy, happened to settle down in the chair next to you or in front of you. You can't stand them. You're sweating, sitting there because this horrible person is sitting next to you. What, Usha? No, no, no. Your mind cannot take it, but your body has no issue. What they exhale, you're inhaling unconsciously, but no problem. Yes? Yes or no? Your body has no problem, this life has no problem, only your mind has problem. Because your mind recognizes the boundary, your body doesn't recognize the boundary. You sit here and breathe, what you exhale, the trees are inhaling, what the trees exhale, you're inhaling. Really, if you look at it, one half of your lungs is hanging out there. Yes, your life is not happening separately, it is happening as a one whole thing. You're just a pop-up from this planet. You know, you have seen those pop-ups on your screen, on your computer screen. If they're paid only for 2 seconds ad, it just pops up for 2 seconds and poop. In the life of this planet, you're just a 2-second pop-up and you'll pop out. Yes or no? So, this pop-up doesn't understand it's just a pop-up, it thinks it's eternal, its boundaries are eternal. You must get this now, these boundaries are all made by you. If you really fix the boundary, you can't breathe and you will die right now. It is a transaction which is keeping you alive. So this sense of boundary is wanting you to expand. Because you know only physicality, you're trying to expand physically. If somebody expands faster than you say he's greedy. If you are expanding faster than somebody, then you think you're successful.
What stimulates or motivates a leader? You've got there. A Mahendra Singh Dhoni is there, right at the top. What motivates them to achieve more?
You're essentially asking what drives them.
Yes.
If they're driven by something, they shouldn't be leading anything, in my opinion. When you drive, you are not driven, you are driving, then you're a leader. If you're driven by something, then you're also a slave, but you have a bunch of slaves behind you. Whether your ambition drives you, or your God-given mission drives you, or your greed drives you, or whatever drives you, if something is driving you, in my opinion, I wouldn't call that person a leader. Nothing drives you. I'm made like this, I really have no need for action. If I close my eyes and sit here, I can sit here till I fall dead. Really, I can simply sit. I have simply no need for action. But all the time on. People think I have a mission. There is no mission. I see an enormous longing in people around me. I see it's needed, so I do what I can do. People call this all kinds of things, oh, Sadhguru is 20 hours a day, 7 days, how can he do this? He must be having God talking to him every day. No. This is just this. If you just pay attention to this, every human being is capable of knowing this. The very body that you carry, you create it from inside. There is an intelligence here, there is a competence here which is capable of transforming a piece of bread into a complex machine called human mechanism. This is the most complex piece of technology on the planet. You agree with me? Those of you who are engrossed with your phones, I'm asking you. This is the most complex piece of technology. This you are capable of making with a piece of bread or a mango or a fish or whatever you eat. Now, if you can tap into this intelligence, even if a drop of this intelligence which can make bread into body came into conscious excess, suddenly life would become magical. This is what every human being has to do, because the highest form of intelligence is right here, not here, it's right across. Right now we're mistaking intellect for intelligence. Intellect is like a knife, it cuts through a few things, it helps you with survival, but it doesn't show you the nature of life. It doesn't give you access to life. In fact, it chops up everything. If you apply your intellect too much to anything and everything gets chopped up. It's a good instrument for dissection when you want to know something. So, today our science has entirely become dissection. This works okay when you're doing some material stuff, but now you want to know your mother very well, so you dissect her. No, please, this is not the way, okay? This is not the way. You must keep your instrument of dissection aside and see how to embrace and include somebody. Only then you know them. By dissection, you may see their liver, kidney, spleen, but you won't know that piece of life in any context, isn't it? So the problem is just this, that we think a leader means he must be boom, boom, slogan shouting, fired up. No, I think leadership has to mature into your place. A leader must be someone who has transcended his own needs. There is nothing driving him. Then he will do what is needed. This is what I'm trying to create with every human being in the world. That is, you are no more in pursuit of happiness, you're blissed out by your own nature. When you're not in pursuit of happiness, you are no more a vested interest in the world. You will do what is needed. But when you are in pursuit of happiness, if I do this, I will find happiness. If I do that, I will get fulfillment, or if I get this, I will get fulfillment. When you're in such a state, knowingly or unknowingly, you are a vested interest. Knowingly or unknowingly, you will cause much harm. People may not realize that right now. Generations later, people look back and say, look at the things they did in the past. But if you are joyful and blissful by your own nature, your intelligence will function in a completely different way. You will do just what is needed. Another thing is, you are free from the fear of suffering. Only and only when you are free of fear of suffering will you stride, full stride in your life. Otherwise, every step is a half a step. What will happen, what will happen, what will happen? Whatever happens, this is how I will be. If this assurance comes to you, then you would explore your life in many ways than you are doing right now, isn't it? This one thing must happen for every leader. This is the reason why last 20 years we've been focusing on the leadership in the world, political, business, bureaucratic leadership, all kinds. This is about 12, 13 years ago, someone, very prominent person came to the yoga center and they went through the inner engineering program and they said, Sadhguru, this is fantastic, but what about the nation? So I told them, see, I have a clear-cut plan. I have listed out 2,000 people. I'm not talking about prime ministers, chief ministers, because they come and go. You know, the life of a democratic leader may be 5 years or 10 years at the most, some may last a little longer. But generally that's all it is. But there are another set of leaders, business leaders, bureaucratic leaders, social leaders, who are there for a solid 25, 30-year span. In many ways, these are the people who ultimately are the legs for any political leadership. They are the people who actually deliver the goods. So I said, see, I have a list of 2,000 people. You get me these 2,000 people in the next 4 years, you will see in the next 8 to 10 years, you will see a significant transformation in the country. We've been going at it nearly 14, 15 years, I think now. I think we have touched about 42 to 43% of this leadership. And they're making a quiet difference. I'm here with you for the same purpose.
But Sadhguru, tell me one thing. One of my closest friends' wives had a very bad back problem. And now she is doing yoga and it seems she will be able to avoid surgery and she will get cured, hopefully, by yoga. How do we take this science, which energizes the body, to the youth of the country?
The youth of any nation has some level of volatility and some level of confusion. But right now, the youth in India, in many ways are at crossroads. They do not know culturally whether they want to fall this way or that way. Usha has successfully, straddled the two worlds. Look at her, how she looks, but she's a rock singer, okay. So, others are all struggling how to, they don't know whether to get totally westernized or stay Indian. Somebody says Bharat, somebody says India, it's a confusion for the youth. The youth means it is humanity in the making. And terrible things have been happening in the country. In our country, so many things are happening. In this, what is happening to children and youth is of great concern because it seems in the last 1 year, 1,700 children below 16 years of age committed suicide in this country. When children start committing suicide, we need to understand we are doing something fundamentally wrong, something very fundamentally wrong. When children below 16 years of age commit suicide in such numbers, we need to understand with grave concern that fundamentals are not being handled properly. I heard this number about 4 months ago. Then I told our people, this year for the yoga day, we must touch 10,000 schools. We must teach yoga in 10,000 schools. People balked, but they've gotten used to it these days. My aspirations. 10,000 looked like a big number 4 months ago. Then I just traveled 8 states and met the chief ministers of every state. But all of them came with such enthusiasm that today we have made MOUs with these 8 states and the 9th state is coming through now. It is going to cross 30,000 schools. We have trained 45,600 teachers who in turn will train 3 teachers in every school. And this is not a one-day thing, will happen as a part of the school curriculum, just 20 minutes a day, a simple form of what is called as Upa-yoga. Upa-yoga means it's sub-yoga. If you teach yoga, there are certain parameters that you must maintain because it doesn't matter how innocuous a yogic practice looks, every one of them has a spiritual dimension to it. Simply the way you sit, the way you breathe, it has. Without those dimensions, if you teach, it would be irresponsible. So, we took this Upa-yoga and which doesn't have a spiritual side to it, which is purely for their physical and psychological well-being. It is of immense need in the country. We are probably touching somewhere around 17 to 18 million children between 10 to 16 years of age. That's the age group we have chosen. But this is still a drop in the ocean. This is not a total solution. This needs to happen on a much larger scale. My commitment is, did all of you brush your teeth today? Those of you not saying anything, please. You brushed your teeth today because the tools for keeping your dental hygiene are with you. Suppose it was in the hands of the government or with an organization, the toothbrush is in my hands. You have to come every day and I will brush you. I'm sure many of you would miss it because the queue. Now everybody has the tools of their dental hygiene. Similarly, every human being should have the tools of self-transformation in their hands. It should not be in the hands of a guru or an organization or some other kind of edifice that has been built. Every human being must have access to this. With this intent, we are doing many things. Fortunately, I consider myself, I was speaking somewhere and I said, Sadhguru, who is the greatest guru in the world? I said, of course me. Mike Tyson's posture, this is me, I'm the greatest guru. They said, what's happened to Sadhguru? I said, see, when a Krishna came, however graceful and fantastic he was, if he spoke, the gentle being that he was, if he spoke, maybe 50 people heard him. Those behind did not hear. When a Gautama, the Buddha came, he was little more, He didn't have the same aesthetic problems as Krishna. He was more committed towards his mission. So maybe he spoke little loudly, 100 people heard. Today we have come to a world where we can sit here and talk to 1 billion people if you want at once. So when this kind of situation has come, a time has come where everybody should have access to it. It should not be limited to organizations, gurus, scriptures, this, that. Every human being, as they know how to keep their mouth clean, they must know how to keep themselves clean. The necessary tools must be made available. Our commitment is just to offer the tools. No philosophies, no belief systems, no ideologies, no forming of one more new religion. But every human being should have the tools and they must know how to use it. Today it is possible. Never before this was possible, today it is possible.
Very often a public display of simplicity is taken for simplicity itself and it's regarded as a virtue. How does one actually impress upon people that it is not a display of simplicity that is important, but it is the simplicity of thought and simplicity of virtue that is more important?
I would appreciate simplicity of thought. I think we need a more sophisticated and complexity of thought. Why do we need simplicity of thought? Do we want to become earthworms? I know they're more eco-friendly, but that's not the idea of being human. This entire simplicity business has come from very mediocre minds. Saints and sages of the past, if you look at them, they lived in accordance to the times in which they lived. Someone whatever I do it with a certain involvement and passion. So I drive in a certain way. So one journalist comes to me and asks, yogis always walked across this country. You are driving by yourself, what kind of a yogi are you? I said, you idiot. 1,000 years ago, not just yogis, everybody was walking only. Not just yogis, everybody was walking. So he was also walking. Now if I walk and go, you will say, see what a fool he is. If I drive, you'll see he's driving. Will I become more spiritual if I have a chauffeur-driven car? So right now there is this thing that spirituality is some kind of a disability. Because if you say I'm spiritual, first thing they will ask you is, what are the things you cannot do? They will not ask you, what are the things you can do? So, I took it upon myself to confuse the hell out of people. Nobody can figure what I am. I am many things at the same time. I have driven in competitive racing, I'm a licensed rotary wing pilot, I'm a licensed diver, I'm many things. Because spirituality is empowerment, it is not a disability. The reason why most people have rejected spirituality is because some people projected the idea, if you dress badly, if you eat badly and if you live badly, you must be spiritual. This has to change. This has to change. Everybody needs to understand what you eat, what you wear, where you live is a question of your requirement and your aesthetic. How you are within yourself is your spirituality. Instead of fixing the interiority, you're fixing the paraphernalia, you're fixing your clothing. So, if you just wear a small piece of cloth around your loins, you will not become spiritual. If that is the way you like it, you want to keep your life that simple, it's up to you. But unfortunately, people are impressed by this. No, this should go. This has to go. So I think in many ways, in a very controversial way, I have set up an example for this, that Donna Karen and me wanted to come out with I design clothes. Everything that I wear is designed by me, and I also design for a few other people. So I said, she looked at my clothes and said, Sadhguru, you're the best dressed man in the world. I said, no. She said, yes, really, I've never seen anybody with your sense of color and texture and stuff. We must design clothes together. I said, okay, I'll give 1 week. 1 week, let's design something. But she said, I don't know how to design men's clothes. I said, what's the problem? I will design women's clothes. There is more options and more creativity there. Well, I didn't get the time to do it, but hope I'll do it someday. So, this idea of simplicity has destroyed many things. At certain times, certain people, somebody who lived in the jungle dressed in a certain way, but even they, when they came to the city, in those days whatever was formal, they wore those things. People's idea of spirituality or yogis and saints, I think these are yogis who've fallen out of the calendar images, okay?
We're getting on in time. This can go on, but it's time to take questions from the audience. We will take 2 questions.
Please take the microphone. If you raise your hand, the microphone will come to you. Yes.
Namaskaram Sadhguru. Speaking of gods and goddesses…
I'm sorry?
Speaking of gods and goddess, Kolkata is a place replete with Kali and Durga Ma, celebrating slaying of Mahisasur. You have also created Mahisasur at Linga Bhairavi's feet. What is the connection and spiritual significance of Devi slaying the demon, and why under Linga Bhairavi also? Thank you.
We didn't talk about guts, gumption and gods.
We didn't.
She's bringing us to the gods.
Yes.
want you to mentally gear yourself up for this. I want you to understand, this land, this culture is a godless culture. Never before, ever in this country have we projected the God any time. We always told you, your life is your karma. That means your life is your making. Everything that you are is a consequence of what you do to yourself, either consciously or unconsciously. If you do it consciously, it'll turn out the way you want it. If you do it unconsciously, it'll turn out some other way and you think something did it to you. So when we said it's your karma, it meant that you are the maker of your life. But gods and gods and gods, I'm sorry, goddesses also, there's a gender issue. We say that there are 33 million gods and goddesses. This 33 million happened when our population was 33 million. Since then, we've gotten a little shy of creating gods because people from outside came without understanding the science and technology of God-making. They said, you are, multiple gods you're worshipping, that's not how it is, we know there's only one God. Everybody made up their gods. Some have forgotten, but we know. That's a big difference. Making up the God does not mean just imagine something. That is how it's happened in variety of cultures, but in this culture, we evolved the technology of God-making. When I say technology of God-making, I don't know if this word is alive in Bengal, but in the south, the deity is also referred to as a yantra. Is that there? No? Yes or no?
Yantra.
Is the deity also referred to as a yantra?
Well, in North India for sure.
It is?
It is.
Okay, in south it's very much alive. You must understand, the word yantra means a machine or a form that works for you. Why do we create machines? Why did we come up with a bicycle? We can walk because we are capable of locomotion. We walked for some time, it was not good enough, so we came up with a bicycle to enhance our ability to, our locomotive capabilities. We enhanced it further, we made it into a motorcycle, we made it into an airplane, we made it into many things. All this only because we are capable of locomotion. If we were made like trees, we wouldn't have come up with bicycles. Right now, because we can speak, we have come up with a microphone, we have come up with a telephone, we have come up with all kinds of phones. Because we can see, we came up with a microscope, a telescope and many kinds of scopes. Every machine that we have created is only enhancement of the faculty that we already have. We did not come up with any machine which does something different from us. It only does the same thing in a better way. We can see till there. We have a telescope and we can see very far. We can speak here, but you wouldn't hear. So we have a microphone. Now we are speaking to the entire hall. So everything, every machine is only an enhancement of our existing faculties. Similarly, as we have created machines, we created subjective machines. This is what we called as the deities or the murtis, or today being referred to as gods in English language. These are machines which could do, we ourselves cannot, where deities or murtis are which have made them into right now circulating around the world because of this, what, the man who knew infinity, whatever, Ramanujam you heard of. Ramanujam just poured out mathematics, unlearnt, simply poured out. People asked him, where does this come from? He says, my goddess, she just drops, she just bleeds mathematics. The things that he wrote in early 20th century are still being figured today. And in 2010, they realized some of the formulas that he built are actually describing the black holes. In early 20th century, there was no concept of black hole, but he created a mathematical backbone for black holes which he did not know about, nor did anybody know about. He said, my goddess just pours mathematics for me. So like this, these are subjective tools with which you can open up a certain window into existence. I am a living example. Unlettered, happy being illiterate. The only qualification I have is, with great care, I remained uneducated. Yes. No. You think education is a difficult thing. No. Remaining uneducated takes a lot more. Because from the first day you are born, your parents, every other adult, teachers, pandits, priests, mullahs, all kinds of people, everybody is busy teaching you something that has not worked in their life. Yes. If somebody gives you any advice, first look at their face. Are they really more joyful than you? Why I'm saying this is, if something has worked for somebody, it should have made him into a really exuberant life, isn't it? Suppose somebody comes and gives you, your neighbor comes and says, I have a special manure for your mango tree. You must look at his mango tree, how many fruits? Yes or no? Before you apply that manure to your mango tree, you must see in his mango tree how many fruits are there. If his mango tree is laden with fruit, unlike yours, then yes, you must take his manure. Otherwise you should not. All the teachers, including the parents, I'm asking you, between you and your children, who is more joyful? Then who should be a consultant for life? So, these are tools. When I refer to, whenever I refer to Dhyana Linga as a tool, people get very upset, Sadhguru, it's more than our life, don't call it a tool, it's such a mundane, crude word. Then I tell them, you do one thing, you come to the yoga center, I'll give you plumbing job, no tools. You can use your hands, your teeth, whatever you want. 3 days, work without spanners, winch, this, that, nothing. Everything will be bleeding. On the 3rd day, I will give you a spanner. Will you worship the spanner or no? You do not know the power of the tool. As human beings, we are who we are only because of our ability to create and use tools, isn't it? Otherwise a colony of ants would dominate us, believe me. We know how to use tools, that is what sets us apart. So we built subjective tools, which today are getting referred to as gods. We appropriately call them as yantras, because these are machines which work for us. So for this, we had a certain way to operate a certain machine. How to access this particular machine, a particular sound pattern, a particular form, a particular process, these processes unfortunately in many places might have gotten distorted. But if a deity is alive, If you know how to use it, it can do incredible things for you. This is not belief system, this is not religion, this is technology. Technology of another kind.
We have a question from Ravichandran Ashwin on video. Can we take that?
Okay. Is he going to spin me out or what?
Hello, Sadhguru. I'm basically a very ambitious person in life. Anything that I want to do, I think I should excel in it. And hence what happens is I get into a lot of conflicts in terms of other people. I generally try and shun people out of my life as much as possible. When I seek excellence, there are always these obstacles that come in between. But what I want to understand is the disturbance that this creates as a process. It puts in our mind, heart. So I would like to handle it much better. And if there is a way that we can sort this disturbance out, I would like to know how.
If you want to excel in something, as I earlier said, you think excellence also is your ambition. Ambition means you're tweaking your desire. Desire need not be tweaked, your competence need to be tweaked. Tweaking the competence, nobody can come in the way because you're doing something with yourself. When your competence reaches a certain level of excellence, others will stand by and watch anyway. When you spin them out, even the batsman will stand and watch his wickets fallen because there is a certain excellence. So excellence is not something that you do with the world, excellence is something that you do with yourself. Suppose you are managing large situations, teams and organizations, then it involves everybody. When it involves everybody, there is a certain aspect. See, the problem is, we are always either looking up to something or looking down on something. This is something we must understand. This is one thing all of you should do. That is, don't look up to anything, don't look down on anything. If you just bring this, it's not simple. It's not as simple as it sounds. Because the moment you say something is good, you will look up to it. The moment you say something is bad, you look down on it. Just bring this equanimity in you. You don't look up to something, you don't look down on something. You look at everything just the way it is. Only if you see life just the way it is, can you conduct it to the best of your ability. If you think something is good, it gets exaggerated in a positive way. If you think something is bad, it gets exaggerated in a negative way. The moment you exaggerate something in your mind, you are not seeing things the way they are. Once you don't see things the way they are, excellence will be of another world, you will never touch it. So, people are not in the way of your excellence, nobody is. It is just that you are treating excellence as an ambition. No, excellence is self-transformation.
There is a question from the Rising Pune Super Giants cricket team page.
This is a fixed question.
It's not a fixed question, but it's a pre-set question.
All right. What's the question?
I think it's…
Oh, they're coming on the video.
It's coming.
Who is asking the question, the coach or the captain or the bench?
No,
What happened?
Lokanethra ji says no. Can we take one question from the audience?
Anybody, please take the microphone.
Sadhguru, I have a question.
Where are you?
I am here. Sadhguru, this side.
Where is here?
This side.
Which is this side?
This side. I am here, Sadhguru.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for making it to Calcutta. We expect you more often in Calcutta. Sadhguru, for centuries, we have thought education is a solution. knowing will be doing. Now today, we are living in a world where every information, every knowledge, every profound thing is available at the click of a mouse. But yet, problems have only got compounded.
Oh, you're still on the mouse, you're not on the phone.
Pardon?
You're still on the mouse, that's an ancient tool. You're not on your phone.
Yeah. So, all these years we have believed that, if we know things, if we know what is right, and, life will get transformed. Today, the problem that I personally face, and I feel so many people, I have done Shambhavi. Now the question is, every morning when I rise, it becomes some kind of a challenge, whether I do it or I don't do it. Execution in our lives has become a challenge. So what is even, say you are touching the 30,000 schools and the children, what will ensure that what the tools or whatever tools of transformation they learn, that gets followed up in their life? How does the execution part gets taken care of? That's my question.
Now with the children, school children, we are not teaching it to the children, we are teaching it to the teachers, and it is going… It's the 5 days. We are trying to involve the parents. If that happens, it'll happen at home also. About you, every day struggling whether to do Shambhavi or not, I want you to understand, I invested my life and my time and my energy to make this happen for you. And now if you're not doing it, you're not just wasting your life, you're trying to waste my life. I take that very seriously. And that's not a good karma for you. So tomorrow morning, the thing is just this. If those first 6 months we told you that you set it up, this discipline, if you had done it, by now, Shambhavi would be a process that will bliss you out every morning. If something becomes a very sweet experience, nobody has to tell you to do it. It is only initially, till you realize the nature of what it is, you need some force. So that's why we asked you to take a commitment, I'm sure you didn't keep it up. But now that you asked this question now, there are millions of people for whom they are looking forward to their Shambhavi every day because that is the best 21 minutes of their life. It should become like that. If something becomes beautiful, then nobody has to tell you, you must do it. Anyway you will do it. It will become lot more than anything that you have known if you give yourself to it. There are millions of people, if they close their eyes in the morning, tears of ecstasy are coming. Do they need to determine themselves they must do it? They'll anyway do it.
Friends, I think in the interest of the schedule, we must call this to an end.
I'm okay.
Okay,
Hello.
Somebody got the mic.
Sadhguru.
can we take it from the lady there then?
Important question for me, please.
One question.
Knowing who I am is not enough.
Where are
because
you? Where are you?
if you…
Hello. Where are you?
Sadhguru, here.
Here means where?
Balcony.
I think…
Balcony, yeah. I have raised my hand. Yeah. What my question is, knowing oneself not intellectually, but truly, the emness, beingness is still not enough because the mind still traps you and enslaves you.
You must
Though
ask
the frequency
you must ask the
decreases.
question and leave it. If you ask the question and also give your own answer.
No. What I'm saying is, what to do?
What to do about what?
No, what I'm saying is, even if one knows oneself as the beingness and emness, not intellectually but truly, still it is not enough. Because still the mind traps you, though the frequency becomes less. Another thing, you claim to stop people from getting enlightened because they may die. It is so ordinary and obvious thing to know oneself, then how can one die?
And how can one stop another person from getting enlightened? Thank you, Sadhguru.
I don't need to stop you. Most people are doing a good job with themselves. I don't have to stop them. It's only a few who's… You must understand this. The problem is, too many books are printed telling you all these things, beingness and thisness and thatness. Too much jargon. Nothing happens like this. You must understand this. If in some way, any one aspect, if something is happening which is genuine, because your mind can deceive you in a million different ways. If something genuine is happening, at least one aspect of your physicality you will transcend. That is the test for you. Tonight, just like that, without drinking a mug of coffee or tea, just like that, simply, without doing anything, no party, no nothing, just sit up and see if you can just stay awake, just like that, the entire night. I'm saying, if something has happened within you, at least one aspect of your physicality would be transcended. It's not that forever you need not sleep. Just try one night, if it's possible. So, just one year, or try not going to the bathroom for 24 hours. Anything. Transcend something, let me see. Because if you have hit something beyond physical nature, this is a clear thing that happens to you. Many things that you thought were impossible to go beyond, suddenly they are behind you. Check it out.
Well, friends, I think all good things must end, as must this. For me, it's been not only a privilege, but a blessing. I think there is something to be learned from every word that Sadhguru says. I think all of us are privileged, happy and blessed. Thank you, Sadhguruji.
I would like to use this opportunity to just say this, that it is wonderful and truly heartening to see that across the world today, the business leadership is beginning to look at the inner dimension. Not entirely yet, but they're beginning to, all over. Every business school is interested. They're trying to hire me as their professors, as a professor for a week, 10 days in a year, which I'm not able to do. But every top business school wants a spiritual element, which is a very good sign, because what spiritual process means is just this. When your identification shifts beyond your physicality, when your experience of life transcends physicality, it is spiritual. Spiritual, it's the most malign word, I know. Spirituality doesn't mean looking up, looking down, it's about turning inward. You have touched something which is beyond physicality. The significance of this is just this. If you touch something beyond physical nature, that means you've touched something which is boundless in nature. You have left the world of boundaries behind you, that's what it means. Those who are enabled in terms of leadership, either political, bureaucratic, business, whatever, in whichever form, if you are in some state of leadership, one thing that needs to happen is you must evolve yourself beyond the world of boundaries. If you live in the world of boundaries and get hugely empowered, you're bound to create some kind of a conflict which is destructive in nature. Particularly the business leadership today, because there was a time when the religious leadership on the planet was the most influential leadership, but then the military machines in the world built up then the military leaders became the most influential leaders. But in the last 100 years, the democratically elected leaders have become most powerful. But a time is coming in the next 15 to 25 years, you will see the economic or the business leaders will rule the world in many ways. But the business leaders unfortunately have a tag around their neck saying that they are vested interests, they are here just to make money. It is a time, it is a wonderful happening that a whole lot of business leaders are looking towards spirituality. This means spirituality does not mean going to the temple, going to heaven, no. It means moving from a world or a dimension of boundaries to a dimension of boundlessness. Once you're empowered, it is important that you go beyond your boundaries. Your boundaries should not rule you, and in the next 25 years, you will see across the world, the business leadership will determine what happens in this world. Today itself it is true, the success of a nation is not determined by the success of the military forces or even the political process. It is the success of the businesses of a nation which determines the success of the nation and the well-being of the nation. When such a responsibility has come, it is my aspiration to move every business leader from personal ambition to a larger vision which brings well-being to everyone. Thank you very much for Sanjay for being here on this day. If your stomach is empty, there's only one issue about food. But once the stomach becomes full, you have 100 issues going on. So the nature of the human being is such, no matter what you do, you want to be something more than what you are right now. And if that something more happens, something more, it's an endless pursuit. So somewhere, a human being is seeking a limitless expansion, but trying to do it with physical… Education, in its true sense, is essentially a tool to expand human perception, if possible, consciousness. But today, the societies have chosen to use education only as a tool to produce cogs for the larger machine. Whatever happens to the planet naturally happens to this body, because this body is a product of the way this planet and this solar system is functioning. This is like the potter's wheel by which this has been made. He went into an elaborate science of this later, but to make it very simple, this much is clear to all of us. There's an elaborate science and mathematics involved in this, but leaving that aside, the way it works. Doing something right means doing it the way it works, isn't it? And it's very important. Whatever we do it the way it works. Can I… I'm getting very serious. On a certain day, a man fell into the septic tank. I want all of you to visualize yourself in a septic tank. He desperately tried to come out, he could not. Then he started screaming, "Fire, fire!"